In this episode, we go behind the scenes of Donut Media, one of YouTube's largest automotive channels, as they navigate major changes and chart a new course forward.
It's just been a wild, wild ride ever since. We do everything. We build cars, we review cars, we talk about car history. We have a couple podcasts. We have a car news show called The Big Three every week. Just any and all aspects of car culture, we try to cover them.
Nolan Sykes, the new editor-in-chief, opens up about the channel's challenging year, including the departure of key talent.
So the biggest changes over this year was the departure of some of our key hosts. The response to that was pretty heavy, emotionally and mentally challenging, I will say. I wasn't really expecting the response that we got to that.
But from challenge comes opportunity.
The last 2 and 3 months on the channel have been some of the best videos that we've ever put out. It's definitely been one of the strongest periods in the channel's history, in my opinion.
Hear how Donut is evolving with a new direction, new talent, and new product launches.
We didn't want to rush that process, though, because we wanted to make the right decision. We went through thousands of candidates.
This is a story about evolution, authenticity, and the future of automotive content creation. So today on the podcast, I'm joined by Nolan Sykes from Donut Media. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Ian.
Excellent. So before we jump into it, can you just tell me, for anybody listening, what is Donut Media?
We are primarily a YouTube channel. We focus on automotive infotainment. You know, we try to get people to fall in love with car culture by teaching them about it. And it's just been a really amazing time. I started here in 2017, and it's just been a wild, wild ride ever since. We do everything. We build cars, we review cars, we talk about car history. We have a couple podcasts. We have a car news show called The Big Three every week. Just any and all aspects of car culture, we try to cover them.
Well, that's amazing. I'm looking forward to hearing more about it. So what's the history of the channel? Where did it start from?
Back in 2015, the company was founded by Ben Conrad, Nick Mosseri, and Matt Levin. And the business was a little different back then. We weren't primarily a YouTube channel. It was more of like an ad house. So we would partner with brands. Brands would hire the company to make ads for their platform. Some that I remember, like Snap-on Tools, Nissan, couple different tire brands, and we'd make fun ads for their brand, and those would go and live on the company's channel usually, or social networks. And we started out doing that, but the margins were not super great on that sort of work. We'd put in a lot of effort to make these awesome advertisements, and not a lot of people would see them because not a lot of people would subscribe to an oil detergents channel on YouTube, right? So our CEO at the time, Matt Levin, decided, hey, maybe we should try some more regularly scheduled YouTube videos, and Facebook. Facebook was also very important in the early days for the company, and we set up a little video called Up to Speed on, I believe the first video was the Nissan GTR. It was just like a quick 4 or 5 minute history lesson on that car, very legendary car. And it blew up on Facebook. It did extremely well on that first day. I want to say it did a million views in the first 24 hours on Facebook, which was huge for us. Also on YouTube, it started, we didn't have that big of a YouTube audience back then. It was maybe 50,000 subscribers, because we had a few occasional build videos here and there with starring some Formula Drift drivers that we worked very closely with very often, Chris Forsberg and Ryan Turk. So it's a hardcore like drifting fan base on the YouTube side of it. But once we started more weekly uploads of Up to Speed, after we saw the success of that, the channel really just took off, and we started adding more shows. We had Science Garage. We had a show that I was in called Wheelhouse. That was like a weekly current event style show. We were trying to do a little bit of like Vox infographic, heavy, just current event stuff. That was a lot of fun. And I mean, that was years ago. That was in 2018 when all those shows were going on at the same time, and it's just changed so much since then. But that's a
And so
little
you,
background on the company.
yeah, and you joined in 2017. What was your first role?
Oh man, I came in as an intern. I was going to California State Northridge. I was just a TV student then at school. I wanted to get into YouTube and marry my loves of YouTube and automotive. And, I knew that Donut was in town, reached out to them. Eventually they brought me in for an interview. And my first thing I did there, I think, was organizing like production binders, which is like, in retrospect, I'm not sure what I was really accomplishing. But yeah, just every Friday I would head into the office and help out any way I could. Got to go on a couple cool shoots. And then started doing a lot of copy for our Facebook page, a lot of writing. I was a TV student, but also had a pretty good writing background. So they're like, hey, this kid kind of knows how to put words together that sound okay. Let's try him out more stuff. So I started writing for Up to Speed. Um, and a few months after Up to Speed had started, I expressed to James, our editor in chief at the time, like, hey, I want to be on camera too. Um, and we tried like a daily news show for like 2 weeks on Facebook. That was really tough. I had to write and source and edit and shoot all this myself, get it done and posted by the end of the day. That was a lot, a little too much. They're like, okay, like you clearly want to do this. Let's work on a show. And that's how Wheelhouse came to be. And yeah, I mean, since now these days, I am now the editor in chief. That's a recent promotion, but I mean, it's just been, I mean, how many years now? 17. Uh, can't do
7 years.
math right now. Yeah, so it's been a lot. It's just been, again, I want to emphasize, it's been a roller coaster over these past several years. So a lot
That's
of fun though.
amazing.
A lot of
That's
fun.
amazing. From intern to editor in chief. So tell us, what does that involve? What's your new role doing?
So I kind of have my hands on everything now. Just trying to make sure that Donut stays Donut and that we hold on to the tenets that made the company successful in the first place. I think we started out, we were very just like in the landscape that we started out in, we were like definitely like the most irreverent and kind of brash channel out there. It was a lot of fun, not too stuffy. I want to sarcastic, not taking ourselves too seriously. I want to hold on to that as best we can and also keep informing people, keep educating them on the culture that I love so much, that we all love so much. And, but also, evolve with the times a little bit and, you know, make sure that we ourselves do not become the stodgy, stuffy channels that we uh, were competing against back in the early days.
And there's been lots of changes going on at Donut over the last few months. What can you tell us
Yes.
about those?
So the biggest changes over this year was the departure of some of our key hosts. Jeremiah Burton and Zach Job. They left. They still work with us in a smaller capacity and will be for the rest of the year. But they started their own channel called Big Time. And James Pumphrey, my mentor and our former editor in chief, he left the company. He started his own channel called Speed. That happened this summer, and the response to that was pretty heavy, I will say. Pretty uh, emotionally and mentally challenging, I will say. Def I wasn't really expecting the response that we got to that. I think we're all caught a little off guard. Um, and along with the on-screen talent, we had also lost some key members behind the scenes as well. Early in the spring, Jesse Wood, our creative director, he left the company. He eventually teamed up with James, and they are now working together at Speed. We also lost a few great directors, Kanan Garrison, Henry Drayton, and an editor, SR, he did so much for us. They all did a lot behind the scenes and informed a lot of the voice of the channel. So that has also been very challenging. But yeah, I mean, I won't sugarcoat it. It's been a tough summer for sure. But what's been really cool is seeing people fill in the gaps and take on the challenge that we had ahead of us. you know, all that change really forced us to kind of reevaluate what our strategy was, both production and content, or content wise, and just you know, kind of woke us up and said, hey, like what are we doing here? What are we trying to accomplish? Like, what stories do we want to tell? What do we want to put in front of the audience? And it was an adjustment period for sure. But I think we reacted very positively. It really got our eye back on the ball. And excuse me. Um, Sorry, one second. I just think like the last in the time since then, I think the last 2 or 3 months on the channel have been some of the best videos that we've ever put out. It's definitely been one of the strongest periods in the channel's history, in my opinion. And I mean, the future just looks the same. I'm just very proud of everybody who stepped up, and all the, once junior directors and junior editors that were able to fill in those roles above them and execute and, improve their skills to make that happen. I'm very proud of everybody.
That's great to hear. Well, thank you for sharing that. And what's your vision for the future of Donut?
A lot more. I want to get back to being a little bit more informative than we have been over this past year. I think YouTube overall, there's a pretty strong trend of spectacle over, we'll say, nutritional value, I think. And something that's really important to me as I stepped into the editor-in-chief role is uh, placing a stronger emphasis again on that nutritional value that we call, like, just that informative stuff, the stuff that people can walk away with after watching a video. I want to refocus on that. So more informative, more relatable. I know that's kind of like a hot word. Everybody wants to be relatable, but this year we've had some builds that were extraordinarily expensive, but also very not exactly things people could just put together in their garage by themselves. I want to get back to doing more of that while featuring more personal cars on the channel. A policy we've had for a little while at Donut, once we started building cars, was that the channel, the company, was really the entity that owned the cars. They weren't personal cars, like our Nissan Zs and our Subaru WRXs. Like, they belong to Donut, but we've started introducing more personal builds onto the channel, and it's had a really great response to the audience, and it just makes it easier for people to relate, I think. I've got for example, I don't really have a plan on the channel for this car, but I have a 1989 Civic that is just like the ultimate Honda track car, in my opinion. And I think that's a little bit more relatable than building a trophy truck, even though a trophy truck is very cool and very impressive from a capability standpoint. I think, if I'm a 19-year-old watching the channel, it's probably more within my means to build a 89 Civic, right? So, and I just think people enjoy seeing people work on their cars that mean a lot to them. Like this year, we put a new transmission in my 1952 Chrysler Imperial, very rusty, just big boat of a car. But because I've had it for a while now, it's like people can tell that personal connection you have with the car. So I want to get back to that as well.
Makes absolute sense. Very authentic. And you've got some new talent that have joined the show. Can you tell us
Mhm.
about them and the process that you kind of go through in bringing new talent onto the screen?
Absolutely. So with the departure of Jared, Job, and James, uh, the J Squad. No, everyone has a J name at Donut. It's pretty crazy. But after their departure, it wasn't just like, hey, people, we need to hire new talent to put faces on screen. We need the personnel to, like, keep doing the jobs that were going on that every host does behind the scenes, with writing and producing and stuff like that. Like, we need people to fill these roles. There's a period there before Tristan Kim and Stephanie Gutierrez came on board that it was just me, Justin, and Jimmy being in all the videos that we're doing, but also doing that legwork behind the scenes as well. And it was pretty taxing. Definitely felt pretty burned out. So just having more boots on the ground, in a sense, really helps. And it was like, we didn't want to rush that process, though, because we wanted to make the right decisions. We sent out a casting call It was, and we both invited people to audition, but also semi-open. Um, we went through thousands of candidates, and that fine whittling down those final 50 to 25 to 10, 5 people was really challenging because a lot of great people reached out to us. They sent in really great audition tapes. Um, but in the end, we finally chose Tristan and Stephanie. Tristan had a strong short form background, but also when we watched his tape, it's like, oh, this kid like gets it. Like he's kind of a weird dude, but like really funny and charming, and really knowledge has a really deep knowledge of what he's doing, especially when it comes to body work and welding and stuff like that. Like really talented guy, super funny. And when part of the process was having people come into the office and just hang out for a day. We would do test shoots on a green screen and in the garage and stuff just to like feel the vibe like on screen. But it's really important that we like hanging out with people, because we spend so much time at the office together. It's really important that they gel well with the rest of the team. Tristan, really great guy, really sweet guy, just really fun to be around. Staying with Stephanie, she had a little different of a process. She was originally featured on our second channel called Real Mechanic Stuff, which is more of like a React channel. That's going to have its own trajectory as well. We're really excited about that. But she was originally featured on Real Mechanic Stuff, just reacting to clips. The audience really liked her, but also like I loved shooting with her. I did a couple episodes on RMS with her, and I was like, Steph's great. Like we should, even before we were looking for new hosts, I was like, we need to bring Steph in on the main channel. And so it was always like we always kind of knew that Steph would be making her way to Donut. So in my opinion, it was more of like a search for one candidate rather than two, because Steph was always, I, as soon as I shot with her, I just knew we had to have her on, and she's been really great. She works super hard. She's very receptive to feedback and just wants to learn everything she can about performing. She does not have any sort of on-screen experience besides being on RMS in the past and now. So getting to like teach her the ways has been very fun. I get to kind of pass on what I learned from James when I first came in. I didn't have any background besides like production stuff. So that's been really cool, very rewarding. And I'm really happy that I get to kind of pass it on. I'm really excited about that.
That's a great
That was
story.
important to me. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I love that. I love hearing how you sort of test some of the talent on your second channel and introducing new
Yeah.
faces.
It didn't happen this round, but previously we've gone through a similar situation, which is how Justin was introduced to the channel. He immediately passed the vibe check. Like we were doing a green screen shoot together. I was like, this guy is awesome. But we also had some other candidates come in who we were like, oh, this guy's a really strong candidate, but then came in and it was just like really weird, So that can happen as well. It's really important that you vet your candidates. That if you have a channel and you're looking for new on-screen talent, definitely hang out with them before signing any sort of paperwork. Because as you know, you just gotta make sure they're cool.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah. And alongside the new talent, you've got some new products. So officially
Mm-hmm.
announced today, I think, is Real Mechanic Scrub. Tell us
Yeah,
about
that's
that.
right. Yeah, so that process started about a year ago. We have a hand scrub for the garage called Real Mechanic Scrub. We saw, obviously saw what other creators were doing with their own products, but we wanted something that wasn't just like a white label, like licensing deal, like, hey, we'll put our label on something or put our logo on a label that someone already makes. Like we wanted a scrub, a hand soap that actually worked really well. And granted, there's a lot of other great products out there, but we wanted something that was our own. And we spent about a year if there's a period there where like every 3 weeks there's new sample bottles in there and like, hey, smell this. Does this smell good? Like I didn't know that there were so many smells out there that you could choose from. And dialing that in was a really interesting process. And also like, okay, this sample feels a little too gritty. This one doesn't feel gritty enough. This is too sharp. Like dialing all that in was a really interesting process. Our head of merchandise and apparel, Tim Moore, he spearheaded that. He did a lot of work finding the suppliers and everything, and the end result is really, really good. I used to be a guy that like wore rubber gloves all the time in the shop just because like I hate having to wash my hands afterwards. Like car grease and all the stuff that goes on when you work on your cars for some reason is impossible to get off your hands. I don't even wear gloves anymore. I just go out of the garage, hit the soap, and I'm good. It's been pretty cool. So we're really excited to see uh, how the people like it and how that does, and that might open some more doors.
And what smell did you end up going for? How would you describe it?
Oh, oh man, I a lot of the other soaps out there have like a very chemically smell to them. We wanted something that was more like a scent you'd find in your bathroom. I don't know how to describe it. But it's very, very pleasant.
Huh.
Um, here's okay. You know how like you'd have like your wife or girlfriend would tell you not to use her special soap that is expensive. Like it smells something that it would be like that.
Okay.
Like I'm being bad by using this soap, but I don't care. Like it's really good.
And you can get that from Walmart, right? So from a distribution
Yeah, you
perspective,
can get it from
yeah.
yes, yeah. So it's in Walmart right now. You can also get it on our website. Um, yeah, so we're seeing how that all shakes out. We're really excited for people to try it.
And you've been at the company now for 7 years. Tell us about the culture. What's it like there?
It hasn't changed too much over the years. I think everybody there is extremely driven. We always want to find people who are you have to be a car nut first to be there, really. But we want people who are just extremely driven. Everyone there, we found the right combination of people. It took a few years, but like the team that we have now is just another level. I really can't thank them enough for being the way they are. I've never like come into work and been like, oh, I hope I don't run into this person. It's just like it's always been super driven, but also I would say a very inclusive work culture there too. Being based in LA, we have people from all walks of life in the building, and it's really cool. I'm really proud of that, and I hope that comes through in the videos as well. Is like I want people who watch the video to think, even if this wasn't a cool car channel where they get to work on cars and drive cars as a job, like it'd still be a cool place to work because I believe it would be.
That's lovely to hear. And there's so much going on in the creator economy. It's always evolving, new formats. How at
Mhm.
Donut have you or do you think about short form content, for example?
So, admittedly, we are a little late to the game on short form. We've definitely prioritized YouTube as our main platform. But that being said, we are definitely taking steps to have a steady short form output in the very near future. Um, we actually just had a big meeting about it yesterday. But me personally, I'm definitely a YouTube guy. I'm a millennial. Like I was into TikTok for a little while and then just kind of deleted the app after a little bit. But I'm definitely more focused on the longer form, like taking your time to explain things side of it. But obviously, you can't deny the appeal of short form content. And we have a lot of people in the building that like Tristan, but also we have our Donut Instagram mod, also very tuned into that world, and a few other people that are going to create like a little sub team within the company to have our short form content not necessarily be leaning on um, the YouTube channel. We'll have a few cut downs here and there, but like we know that short form platforms like TikTok and Reels that has its own shorthand, that has its own way, it's its own medium. And we don't want to like force the YouTube content to be short form content. We want it to be its own thing, but still have the donut voice and still adhere to the tenets of the company. So, I'll check off on it because being editor in chief and all, but I'm excited to see what that team does and what they come up with to uh, be unique in that space.
That's great. Well, I'm looking forward to seeing that. And it's 2024, so I can't not ask you about AI. How do
hmm
you use AI much within the business? How do you feel about it?
I'm a pretty big skeptic of AI and the hype around it, to be honest. But there's a few tools we use like generative fill on thumbnails in Photoshop. I think that's a pretty essential tool, I think, to get your packaging done quickly. But we write all of our scripts ourselves. Coming from a writing background, and like that's what I came up doing in the company, it's extremely important to me that all of our scripts are still written by hand, not on paper, obviously, but written by hand on your computer, because I just don't think that AI, it just to be a pretentious, well, I don't know, I just don't think it can capture the heart of why a car is cool. I mean, all content, human generated content, comes from a place of enthusiasm or heart, or because people have a passion in it. And I just don't think that AI can replicate that in a writing sense. Also, when it comes to, I don't know, shots, I'm sure AI generated video has like come such a long way in such a short time, but I still feel like people can tell the difference. And a shot of a car going down on a road, I think, will always carry more weight if you can tell that it was shot with a camera in the real world. I think we are lucky being in the automotive space because it is so grounded in the real. Like the the feeling of driving, you're feeling forces on you, physical forces on you. If you're building a car, you're putting it together with your hands. You're seeing a car in person. You can, see all the details and the handiwork that went into it. I think maybe creators in other spaces might be worrying a little bit more about the implications of AI and having to compete with AI generated content. But I do give there is solace in that. I think cars being so grounded in the real, as it were, I don't worry about that as much. It's more about, for me, just like making sure that there's always a human hand making the stuff that we do,
Yeah, that makes absolute sense. And I think
except for
it's gonna
generative fill, because that's really handy.
it's definitely gonna affect different verticals in a different way, I think. And so much real world filming with the cars, you've definitely safe for a few years. Um, but
Yeah.
where do you see the business in 5 or 10 years? What do you think the future of Donut is?
Donut has been a place where this was like a lot of people's first professional industry job, and they eventually moved on to bigger things. And I think that's okay. Um, I think that that's how entertainment is. Um, but I over most of all, I just want people to come work here and uh, have a good time and learn a lot and better themselves.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for telling the story. And it's really great to hear about your own personal journey. Before we wrap up, are there any other projects in the pipeline that you can sort of tease us with before we go?
Yeah, so it's been a very challenging year, but it's also been very busy this quarter specifically. We just got back from Baja, Mexico with our Ford Ranger desert racer truck. I won't spoil anything, but it was an unmitigated disaster, but also an incredible experience. I won't spoil how we did, but that video will be coming out in December. That's the finale of our Ford Ranger saga. That's kind of been our main build series throughout this year. It was an incredible trip, and I can't wait to see the first cut pretty soon. But that'll be out in December, and we are also doing our high-low series with our Ford Mustangs. We're still currently shooting that right now. Um, we are doing a live finale. We'll be going out to Tucson, Arizona, to their drag strip out there. We're inviting the fans out. That's on November 23rd. That'll be on Saturday night, the weekend before Thanksgiving. Um, that's going to be a lot of fun. We're trying our hand at live events. That certainly also plays, those will be a more prominent thing, I think, in the future. We're planning more live events. But yeah, we're trying to get to Christmas break here. It's been a crazy year, and we've got some really big videos to close it out.
Excellent. Well, I'm really excited to see those. Thank you so much for joining us, Nolan. All the best in the new role.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on, Ian.